Hello, YouTube peoples. Yeah, I figure I'm about due to check in, and as usual, I don't really do much as far as a presentation or appearance for my videos. I'm just kind of here, but you do get me, and you do get honesty. So you might not get a shirt or a guy sitting up or whatever, but you will get honesty. Anyways, as far as my Xanax slash alprazolam physical dependence, I'm doing really good with it. Uh, Problem is, I'm not sleeping well, but that's an unrelated matter. As far as I've just, I've had many suggestions about. I think it's water titration, but anyways, where you dissolve the pill in water and take micro doses throughout the day, and I've had a lot of different advice about it, but I've sort of just been sticking to taking my quarter milligram and just spacing it out further and further. So yesterday I went 37 hours between doses, and I got a little bit uncomfortable. Um, yeah, in 2 days I will be at the 3 month mark of the tapering process. So considering all the other stuff that I've had to deal with through this process, and there's been a lot of stuff, a lot of extra things and extra weights and pressures put upon me. I think I'm doing pretty good. You know, well, that's what you never know about talking to a psychiatrist or psychologist or psych people or whatever like that. But they were like, yeah, one older psychiatrist guy I talked to, is like, yeah, you're doing pretty good. That's a pretty good reduction rate. Um, uh, Anyways, yeah, I was looking at my papers where I write down my dose intervals, and yeah, I've done like 3 or 4 days in the last 5 days where I'm in the 30-hour mark. I'm getting to the point where I'm not thinking about it, which is cool. Like I was talking to somebody the other day, and I'm like, I don't even know, what hour it is as far as like how long it was until I took my previous dose. It said like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have been like, yeah, it's been 18 hours, 32 minutes, and 18 seconds. It was like that. So it was weighing upon me, and one day I was like, I didn't think about it, and that was like the first day I was like, how long has it been since I took a dose? And I was like, oh, it's been 24 hours, and I wasn't thinking about it. So I'm making progress there, which is good. About a week ago, I went over to a friend's house to I watched the Cavs get slaughtered by Golden State, and I walked up and down their steps a couple of times, and I've had a bad knee for a while, and uh, man, that night it was like I had a cramp in my leg, but I didn't have a cramp. It was like cramp level pain where your legs just like that, and you almost got to pull it out and everything like that. And I was like, well, there ain't no sleeping tonight. So um, I haven't been sleeping right since then. And I guess I'm going to say it, I don't know if it's the correct term, but my circadian rhythms have been thrown off. So even when my body doesn't know when it should get sleepy at this point, which is really annoying. I have doxepin, which is a sleep pill, but I took it to try to straighten out my sleep schedule, and I still woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I took some Valium, and a micro dose of Valium, and a quarter of Xanax, thinking that, well, I can go back to sleep, because it's really important, I think, when you're going through the withdrawal process, to have a set sleeping schedule. I think it's important probably always, but especially when you're going through the withdrawal process, to say like, this is when I go wake up, this is when I go to sleep, to have some kind of like a schedule and regular habits as far as everything. And so last week's been chaotic. I have something unpleasant to do next week, which I was fighting back and forth with it. Well, first I should tell you about my doctor's visit. I went to Dr. Wacky Pants, and I think it was just for like a routine, what they call a routine visit. And the guy is so alarming. he was like, I went to pain management once, and he's like, he was like, oh yeah, about your he got, at least he got the drug right this time. He didn't say Ativan, but he was like, oh, about your alprazolam, like pain management's handling that, right? I'm like, no, you are. Like, what the fuck? So yeah, that's alarming as hell when you got a doctor that's at attentive. Like he's like, oh, are they handling that? And I was like, he doesn't. No, no, you are. You know. So, anyways, I was due for my refill. I'm ahead, like way ahead as far as my prescription because I'm doing really good on my taper. But I was due for my refill, and I called them yesterday, and they're like, well, we'll call you when the your script is ready, and then you go and pick it up because it's a controlled substance. They don't phone it in. You probably already know this if you're watching this video. They don't phone it into the drugstore for you. So anyways, they didn't call today. My sleep screwed up, so I slept in until 11. Drank a cup of coffee and called them around 12:30, 1 o'clock. And the office closed at 12. They never close at 12. So I was like, oh man. So irritating, you know. They got these medicines that people are physically dependent on, and they're not timely in refilling them. So, you know, most people find this out by accident and have to go through withdrawal, that doctors are just like unattentive or they just don't care. And they're like, well, you know, you can go 24 hours without something, or 48 hours. You know, sometimes it'll take a couple days to refill stuff that, you know, it's supposed to be refilled on the 15th, and now I won't get it till the 18th. You know, I learned my lesson a long time ago about stockpiling for, you know, incidents like that. But suppose this was a first time thing for me, then I was a rookie at this, and I ran out, and I have no pills now, and I will be in cold turkey withdrawal until Monday. Imagine that. You know, and they never close at 12. You know, I got their answering service, and I asked them, I was like, is this a new policy? They're always open till 5 on Fridays. And she's like, I don't know. So anyways, there's that. But he doesn't seem to want to be my doctor, which is weird, but he still accepted me as a patient. And he told a relative of mine that I guess she had an appointment scheduled with him, and then they called and told her they don't take her insurance. Her insurance is the exact same as my insurance. So it's all very alarming. My doctor's really just, he's a mind fuck waiting to happen, man. He's alarming as hell. So, you know, he's like, they're talking about my leg, and I had an ultrasound on the muscle in my calf. And so they know that there's something wrong with the muscle. They've known this for a while. So my doctor says, well, you know, you go to pain management. I said, they're going to do a bone scan. And I'm like, we know it's a muscular thing. And he's like, well, go get your bone scan and go to pain management and see Dr. Well, I'll say his name. I guess it don't matter. Dr. Felden. And he'll probably want to do an MRI on it. I'm thinking, in the meantime, I can't effing walk. I barely, you know, I'm getting squirrely just from, you know, I got a garden that I'm dreading. I'm going to have to water it because we haven't had much rain here. You know, I'm walking up and down steps and it's keeping me up at night. And he's like, it's like, so it's, yeah. You know, I know you folks are going to say, find a new doctor. If this guy sucks this bad, find a new doctor. But I'm pretty put upon. And he's like right down the road. And it's convenient. Plus, he's handling the substance that I'm physically dependent on. So, you know, I don't want to rock that boat until I'm at the point where I can fly solo without that. I believe I told you that I talked to that psychiatrist guy, and he's like, they won't prescribe Valium for somebody that's still taking Xanax, but they will switch people from Xanax to Valium. So at some point, I'll have him write scripts for me for Valium. But Valium don't do that. Works for some people. That don't do the trick for me, man. I took some yesterday while I was doing my 37. I took like a small dose of it yesterday. Now I don't want to take large doses of Valium, so I think I took 5 milligram Usually I take 2.5 milligram half a pill. But I think I took a 5 milligram pill, which is a pretty light dose, you know. And I think when they switch people from Xanax, it's more like 30. I don't know that much about it, but I know that that's a light dose of 5 milligrams. So I take that, you know, and that helps me space out the Xanax. But I still get withdrawal symptoms for the Xanax, even though they're both in the same family of benzos. They're not, for me anyway, they're not the same. I'm still going to get, like yesterday at 37-hour point, my head was getting a little weird. You know, I was getting like, you know, the symptoms are, you know, the symptoms if you're watching this probably, but I was starting to get some pretty, you know, the fragmented thought and fuzzy around the edges feeling and a little disorientation and all that fun stuff. So, oh, about my situation with my leg. So I got a triple phase bone scan scheduled for next Thursday, where they inject a radioactive isotope into you. They do an initial thing, and then they wait like 3 or 4 hours, and they do another test. So that means I'm going to be at the hospital like forever because I don't drive. I don't think I can be shuttled back and forth. If I drove, I would go in there and I'd get injected with the isotope, and then I would go home for 3 or 4 hours and then, you know, drive back. But it looks like I'm probably just going to stay there in the hospital and sit around in the lobby or something. And I'm not a modern person. You know, I don't have a phone to play on, to play with the internet or to kill time that way. So, you know, I'm sure I'll be sedated and just sitting there. Uh, you know, I've already slept in hospitals before, in hospital lobbies. I fell asleep once in a hospital lobby. That's a funny story. Uh, so, oh shit. That's the day I got shot up with lidocaine and Novocaine for a nerve block and was high as shit. But I already told that story on here before about having to stand naked to get a thermography test. But this was the day of that. You know, it's like I had to wait for my ride to show up. And I knew it was going to be a while, and I'm off in ozone, dancing around in a field with gnomes and fairies and shit. I'm all high and shit. So I'm at the Cleveland Clinic, and I fall asleep, you know, like a dead sleep, just like laying on a little like a mini sofa in the lobby where I told the guy to pick me up, and I started hearing a whole bunch of Arabic. And this is around, I think this is around the time of the Gulf War, where we were having trouble um, in Iraq and stuff like that. So I wake up to the sound of these people speaking Arabic, you know, Allah Akbar and all this stuff around me. And I don't know where I'm at. I'm high as hell. I don't know where I'm at. And I'm looking up, and there's guys with turbans on, you know, and they're just standing around me and talking. I'm like, it took me a second to figure out. Okay. This is this is a huge hospital. I'm in America. I'm in the state of Ohio. I'm in the Cleveland Clinic. I didn't get kidnapped and dragged away and doped up, and I'm not waking up in some country with a lot of sand in it and camels. Yeah, that was an odd experience, man. Because here in the heartland, man, we don't have a whole lot of diversity. So, you know, one of the first times I traveled, I went to Florida, and I was fascinated because there were people speaking 3 different languages around me in a crowded McDonald's. You know, I was hearing Spanish, and I was hearing a language I didn't recognize, and I was hearing English, and I'm like, oh, this is like interesting, because this is a pretty white bread part of the country we're living at. And by white bread, I just mean I don't mean color. I mean everybody around here speaks English, and there's not a lot of like diversity as far as languages and stuff. So, anyways, yeah. So next week's going to be stressful, and I'm really pissed off today because I want to get my script on time so I could stockpile more. And I'm like, couldn't believe it when I found out that you know, I thought I had till 5 p.m. and they closed at 12, and I woke up at 11. There wasn't no chance in hell I was going to make that. I did check my answering machine right away to see if they called they always say we'll call you, and then they call about 25% of the time to tell you that your prescription's in. And then they get irritated when you call them and like, is my prescription in? Or, it's like, oh, we'll call it. And I don't argue with people because it's usually very pointless. So I don't tell them, it just becomes a he said, she said thing. If you start saying, listen, you guys almost never call. You're always telling me you'll call. That's why I got a call. I'm not calling because I enjoy the lovely sound, the dulcet tones of your voice over the phone. And come on. So, yeah, if I can get my legs straightened out and where I can walk, get out of this damn house, because I've been squirrely as hell, man. Like, real squirrely. I'll be fine. I mean, fine for me anyway. I still have a lot of problems. It's really kind of messes with my head a little bit that one of the main reasons I'm getting this bone scan is not, I don't think I'm getting a bone scan because I have a bad leg, because they know it's a muscular thing. But, I kind of like capitulated and was going to go ahead with the program with it, because I'm like, well, maybe that leg is so bad and I'm so desperate. I'm like, well, maybe they can find something with this bone scan thing. Maybe there's some kind of thing involved in the bones, because sometimes you can injure a muscle like repeatedly and it'll cause changes in the bone. I just want some kind of explanation for why I can't walk. But I think the main reason they're doing the bone scan is the guy doesn't believe I've had CRPS for 32 years, because, as he put it, the diagnostic tools from 1987 were primitive, I guess is the word he used. And he's like, they weren't that accurate, so he doesn't believe I have this disease. And I'm like, I don't really give a shit if I have the disease or I don't have the disease, because you can say, you can tell me, you don't have CRPS, nothing is going to change. So I'm not going to start jumping around and doing an Irish jig. My legs aren't going to be any stronger or anything like that. I'm not going to have my hypersensitivity and all my other symptoms not going to go away, so it's not going to change anything. So at first it took me a while to decide whether I wanted to get that done, and the whole idea of having a radioactive isotope injected into you, not a pleasant thought at all. And then the possible 6 hours in the hospital and all that. But you know how doctors are. You got to play ball with them or they get offended. It's just, that's how, like, I've had a lot of experience. That's how, like, 75-80% of doctors are. It's like, you're an uncooperative patient. It's like, no, this is my body. I should have a say over what goes on here. They think I got stories upon stories. I can tell you one, if in case anybody's interested. If you can get over my poor presentation and my, as Mark Twain put it, my premature balditude. Maybe I should wear a hat or something like that. But here's a story for you about how this will give you an idea of how medical people can be, if you don't know already. So I had a 2-step surgery, general anesthetic. And that involves intubation. They put a tube down your throat. And so I wake up in the ICU the first time, and I got like a whole bunch of nasal congestion, and I'm not getting enough oxygen. I feel like I'm drowning. I feel like I'm being waterboarded or something like that. And I start panicking, and I'm on morphine, which also morphine will suppress respiratory function anyway. And I'm panicky and stuff, and I can't talk, obviously. I'm intubated. I got a tube going down my throat, and I'm like making gestures and stuff. And, I call one of the nurses over and I do this, telling her I want to write, and she gives me a clipboard and a piece of paper, and I write real big, I can't breathe, and she said, we'll get, she, as usual, people don't take me seriously for some damn reason. So she's like, oh, it's okay, honey. We got to get your blood gases checked before we pull that tube out for you. So I looked at her, I grabbed the tape, and I ripped it out, and I pulled that fucking tube out of my face myself. She looks at me, and she's like, what the hell are you doing? And she's like, I can't believe you just did that, and she was scolding me in an ICU, if you can imagine that. She's even raising her voice and using lame profanity in an ICU. And I wasn't up to talking or nothing like that. I didn't talk back to her or nothing like that. But she's like, you're going to have the worst sore throat you ever had in your life. I can't believe you did that. Blah, 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 blah. And it was just a straight panic thing. Not no macho thing. It's like I couldn't breathe. I just ripped the tape off and I de-intubated myself. And she's like, you're going to have the worst sore throat you ever had, right? So this is a 2-step procedure, and I get another surgery because they were doing spinal reconstruction on me. And this time I played ball and let them de-intubate me and take the tube out of my throat. I had the worst sore throat I ever had, man. It was so painful. When I did it myself, I didn't have no problem at all. So yeah, I don't know how that relates to what I was saying about medical people, but yeah, they like you to play ball. They like you to go along. So I got to kind of go along with this bone scan thing. And, God knows I've had so many x-rays and stuff. God knows what kind of effect all that has on you. There's a reason why I didn't go to the doctor for 20 years. And I know a lot of people like that just won't go to the doctor at all. And I don't believe in behaving like that, but I don't believe in like rolling over for doctors and like, oh yes, I'll do whatever you say, Oh yes, I'll wait to breathe until they check my blood gases, it's shit like that. So, so with this bone scan thing, I'm like, well, maybe they'll find something that'll help my leg, I don't, I think mainly they're doing it because the guy wants to know if I have CRPS or not, because he doesn't believe I have it, but yeah, it's just another irritating thing that I have to go through. Well, right before I made this video, I had to talk to my landlord because 4 cops came out of the building, and that was interesting because, they're looking around the building, and I'm like, oh no, and I kind of actually wanted to talk to them for some reason. I guess I was really bored. Like I said, I'm getting squirrely. I'm like, I hope they knock on my door. I would like to have a pleasant chat with a 250-pound policeman right now. So they go upstairs, and I'm eavesdropping. That's the only time I allow myself to eavesdrop was when the police are around. I'm eavesdropping, and I hear the cop say, come out of there, Lindsay. We know you're in there. And there's this girl, and a good-looking girl too, man. Good-looking girl. She just came here. I just saw her walk in like 20 minutes before that. In a nice sundress. It's warm here, and nice in her 20s, redhead, beautiful girl. So, anyways, she's like, "I'm not Lindsay," and they're like, "Come on now." They didn't believe her, and they're like, "You got an ID?" And she's like, "No, I don't have any ID at the moment." You don't have a state ID or a driver's license, right? And she's like, no. And they're like, why don't you just tell us who you are? We know who you are already. Just tell us who you are. And she's like, I could tell that she had him because of the tone of her voice. Because she, there's people that are cool as ice in situations like that. But in a situation like that, where you're facing 4 cops and, until they find out who you are, they ain't going nowhere. And yeah, so the way how calm she was is I knew that she knew that she wasn't the person they were looking for, but she was like gave them the last 4 digits of her social, maybe her full social. No, I don't remember, but anyway, social security number was involved. And then they were like, "Well, where's your current address?" And you don't live here. And she goes, "No, I've just been staying here for a while." And she couldn't even tell him her last address. And I'm like, uh-oh, maybe she is cool as ice. So I'm watching this, I'm listening to this whole drama unfold, and I got a little peephole, and I'm being a nosy bastard looking out the peephole, kind of, I can half see what's going on. And the one cop's like, this place amazes me. Every time we come up here, there's a different girl up here. And I'm like, well, good for that dude. I guess, maybe good for him, I don't know. So anyways, it turns out she's not Lindsay. And so, her day wasn't ruined. And as the cops was leaving, she's like, maybe I should get an ID. And they were like, she was telling her story or whatever, like to explain why she couldn't give him a current address and why she didn't have an ID. I guess she did some time in a rehab and was getting sober, and I guess her last address was a rehab or something like that. But anyways, so yeah, that was somewhat interesting trying to piece all that together. And I had talked to my neighbors next door, and they were telling me about all kind of criminal activity that's supposedly been going on associated with my building, but I haven't noticed all that much. I saw a couple probable drug deals go down. I see a lot of people coming and going like all the time, which is never a good sign. So, anyways, cops left, and I talked to the landlord about it, because I don't care about people using drugs. I care about somebody living in the building with me selling drugs, because I've already been through that before. And hell, man, the dude next to me, he smokes the ganja from hell, man. I had a visitor come over and they're like, "Don't come out in the hallway, man. You'll get a contact buzz." Yeah, because he smokes medical grade crazy marijuana. I don't know if he buys or if he has. It's legal here in Ohio, but I don't know if they're dispensing it yet. It was weird. They like passed laws legalizing it, and then you can't get it. So I didn't try to get it anyway because I don't smoke anymore. I gave that up. I got a heart thing, and it makes my heart beat fast, and I don't really enjoy it. So maybe I could get over the nerves I have in my heart accelerating. Or they have different strains of it. I'm just not interested in it. It's like I did that. I was like a pothead for a few years, and it didn't work out too good for me. So, and I know so many potheads that I get frustrated with them because they have that song, "I used to do this" or "I used to want to do this, and then I got high, and then I got high." And that's church, as they said like maybe 5 years ago on the street. That is yeah, that's gospel, man. That is the way it goes because I know people like that, and it's real simple to explain. Is you do stuff, you get endorphins, you get a positive outlook, and you go out and you jog or whatever. You get that just so you get that just from smoking, and so why should you go out and jog? Why should you play your guitar? Why should you do this? Why should you do that? So I think it kills ambition. I've seen a couple people that were atypical where they would smoke dope, and then I knew somebody that smoked dope and then would go to a gym and work out. I'm like, I couldn't relate to that at all. It's like that's not normal. That's just weird. But anyways, um, yeah, I don't know. I'm in a pretty good mood. I've been taking up playing guitar. I was thinking before the cops came and I had to make that call to the landlord and stuff. I was thinking, I'll put a shirt on and sit up on the couch here, and I got to play something on a guitar and make it part of my Benzo update video. I'll probably do that at some point for the few people that watch me. I know a lot of people say, I'm off-putting. I've always been off-putting to people. I've never been like, how they say some people are innately likable. Kind of the opposite of that. So I'm kind of used to that. Once people get to know me, they kind of like understand me where I'm coming from a little better. A little better. Then people generally think I'm okay. But as far as like casual social interaction, I'm either really bad at it, or I got a messed up looking face, or I'm just not really. Yeah, people kind of brace themselves when they see me coming, or they look at me strange when I talk, just because I'm an odd character. And I know people say that shit, all the time, like I'm an odd dude, or trust me, I'm an odd dude. I've had an odd life. That's maybe the first time you've ever heard of anybody that intubated themselves, but that's only the tip of the iceberg with me. I've had a very, very strange existence. Yeah, I could go on and on and on, and maybe some people would find that interesting, and maybe some people would rather do something productive, go out and clean the leaves out of the gutter, or sweep the floor, or find. Or like me, like I said, I'm like everybody else. I like good looking people. So That's like I was kind of on that girl's side. That's fucked up, isn't it? I was kind of like, well, I could talk to the police and tell them that I know one of the people that she's talking about. I think, and they could give me a description on it because I don't like that guy. But I'm like, I don't want to jam that sweet little girl up. Eyes like that don't lie. you know, she's too pretty, man. Damn pretty people. And so, anyways, I don't like to jam anybody up just in general because I don't know their backstory. I'll tell you a quick story here. I just told the landlord this. This is something funny that happened in this building. There was only two people living in this building, both of them on the first floor. My door is approximately 30 feet or less. No, 30 feet, hell, more like 15 feet uh, from the other door where this woman named Karen was living. Now, Karen was shacking up with this dude, and, kind of a large person. And I remember he had a beard, and kind of a guy that give you a little bit of, take a little second look at, kind of a dude. Anyways, the cops show up. Oh, I'm telling the story out of order because, not a good storyteller. Good stories, not a good. I'm trying to work on the storytelling and the digressions and the freaking non-linear. Who do I think I am? Quentin Tarantino with the non-linear storytelling. Let me start this shit all over again and do it quick. Anyways, so my door is here. Her door is right there. She's shacking up with this squirrely large dude. Look rather unkempt. And he shows up. I see him walk in the front door, and he shows up. Man, the cops show up like 20 minutes later. I know for a mortal certitude that dude is at less than 30 feet away from me. I know that voices carry in that hallway, and anything said in that hallway can be heard by people on the first floor. There's only two people on the first floor anyway. So I know whatever I say is going to be heard. So cops knock on my door, and I remember her as an attractive woman cop, and a large male cop. The large male cop had the lead, and he was asking me, and he's like, we're looking for a guy, they won't tell me what he did, they wouldn't tell me. I was like, well, what did he do? They don't go there. So he's like, that's not your concern, but we just, we've are looking for him because we know he's been sighted around here. And like, have you seen him? And I'm like, oh yeah, he comes and goes, sometimes. I've seen him a couple of times. And they're like, have you seen him recently? And I'm like, no, not recently, because I know he can hear me. I don't know what this guy did, man. He might have chopped somebody's head off with a rusty saw. I don't know what this guy did. So I'm like, no, not recently. Well, do you know when he does come here? Because you said that you've seen him a couple of times. When he does come here, which apartment does he go to? And I'm like, I don't know. And then the female cop just looks at me sideways because she's smarter than the male cop. And she's like, you say he comes here. You say he's come here more than once, but you don't know what apartment he goes to. I'm like, look, officer, I don't jump out of my recliner every time that damn front door opens and look out the peephole to see who goes where and who does what. And I had fake outrage going and stuff like that. And the male cop was like, okay, we're sorry to have bothered you. But that female cop looked at me like, man, you are so full of shit, you smell. She didn't believe none of it. But I'm like, no, I am not fingering some dude having the cops leave not knowing what that dude did. He might have jumped out the back window when he heard that the cops were coming anyway, so it all could have been a moot point. But that's a hell of a drop out that back window. He would have had to commit murder to want to jump out that window, because we're talking about a 15 to 20 foot drop. As you know, if you follow my videos, is I have to lower food dishes out on strings to the cats, and like from my window it's like anywhere from, I don't know, 12 15 feet down, and that's hers is probably worse. Her apartment was probably higher up than that. So anyways, yeah, So I don't like to get involved in stuff, and it's not because it's like, for one thing, I don't know people's stories. I don't know what they did, who they did, what they did, who did what. I don't know their stories. Like that girl today. I don't know. She could be a person with issues. Maybe she got psychological issues. Maybe she's addicted to a benzo. Who the hell knows? Maybe there's a reason. Maybe that's why she was in rehab. Maybe she's like me. Maybe that's why she don't have an idea. She just grew up hard and is a dysfunctional person, but a good person. So I don't want to get in her business without knowing her. I don't. That's why I don't like to deal with cops. And that was just self-preservation. Me and the Charles Manson looking dude. He looked like Charles Manson blowed up on steroids. I like, I'm getting killed over something I don't even freaking know about. But they showed me the sketch artist rendering. Dead ringer, man. That was a good sketch artist, or that was a good witness. Whoever they had that was telling the sketch artist, but man, that's him. There was no question it was him. Um, yeah, I probably left that out of the story. I don't know. I didn't eat today. I got a damn headache. I haven't been sleeping, and I just had like a cops thing happen, and it's like, they apparently arrested somebody in this building a few days ago. I didn't even know about it, and I had talked to my neighbors. Like I said, live next door, and I don't know them that well, but they were talking about all kind of like, they actually said they saw somebody shooting up out in front of the building, which I don't know them well enough to know if that's just a bunch of who shot John, as Judge Judy would say. Just a bunch, people tell stories, they like to embellish. I don't embellish. I leave things out. I don't embellish. Like, I hopefully I didn't leave out the sketch artist part, because that's kind of an important part of the story. But I'm rusty. You know, I haven't told many stories on here for a while, and like I said, I've been trapped inside, so I haven't told many stories in general to anybody. Uh, Hopefully that'll change, because that's no fun, man. When you're going through the withdrawal process, and that's why I'm taking up playing the guitar again on a regular basis. Is you got to do something, and you know that's rough when you're trapped in a house. And for a while there, my withdrawal symptoms were so bad, I wanted to be trapped in the house. But now that I'm doing better, I don't want to be trapped in the house, but my leg is trapping me in the house. I didn't, when I started out the withdrawal process, my leg wasn't that bad. And then I was like, it was like the universe was like, you know what? He's not having a hard enough time. Let's throw something else on his plate. That's how it's been through my last 2 years. It's like I'm just waiting for the next troublesome thing to come down the pike to give me grief. Uh, yeah, but like I said, I always try to be cheerful. Um, on the fake it till you make it theory. So I always try to be cheerful, and I always try to like make the most out of things. I've had a lot of experience doing that, because when I ripped that tube out of my throat, I was 18 years old. So I've been I'm well acquainted with suffering. I could be a professor of suffering. I could teach you about that stuff. All right, we got 38 minutes on the video, and if you know me at all, 38 minutes to me is like 5 minutes to anybody else. Because not only do I have a wealth of odd experience, and am in deep love with the sound of my own voice, I love language. I love talking. I love odd verbal expressions. And I was thinking of uh, some of the stuff that my parents used to say. My parents passed in 2015, and so I was talking to my brother, and I was like, yeah, they had so many odd expressions. Like my mom would call you a wasteful Winnie. I don't even know what the hell that means, but if you left food on the plate, or if you're being a wasteful Winnie, I don't even know what that means. And she also had an expression, fart in a mitten. I don't even know what the hell that meant. I still don't know. She would say something like, you're like a fart in a mitten. Who the hell, what does that even mean? Yeah, they were interesting people. Sorry, my voice is going going a little bit. But yeah, I'm in an okay mood. Like I said, um, once my leg gets I feel like if I didn't have extra things that I could already beat this praise alarm thing. And if I had a doctor that wasn't just a freaking stone maniac, who goes to their doctor and he's like, let's talk about your Ativan situation. And guy's never prescribed Ativan for you. Who go? Well, I should amend that. He prescribed it for me once 3 years ago, and I think it was like 10 or 15 pills at a very low dose. But this is like 3 years ago, you know. And I that's why I originally said when I talked about that before that he'd never prescribed it before because I didn't even remember it. That somehow that popped in his brain. He should be looking at my chart and seeing what medications I'm currently taking, but he says Ativan. So, and then I go in there and he's like, oh, we could put your dose back up to 2 times a day. And I'm like, no, I've been telling you I'm trying to quit. And, I made a video about that, of course. So I was like, oh, you dummy, you should have took the pills. I'm trying to stockpile, and the guy's handing out like double. Instead of 30 pills, he's going to hand me out 60 a month, and I was so focused on quitting, and I was in pretty bad withdrawal symptoms at the time, so I wasn't thinking clearly. I was like, no, I don't want to updose. Not thinking that I don't have to take them pills. I don't have an addiction. I have a physical dependence, which means I don't want to take those pills. And lots of times I put off taking those pills to the point where it's kind of risky as far as my heart and stuff, and I'm like, I have to force myself to take them. So, this last thing he did was like, is pain management handling your alprazolam situation? I'm like, no, you are. So yeah, it's terrifying to go to a doctor like that where it's like, I've been going to this guy for, shoot, 3 or 4 years now. It's like sometimes he's there and sometimes he's not there. Sometimes he knows what's going on, sometimes he doesn't know what's going on. I know one thing, you don't want to make morning appointments with this guy because usually he's at his craziest. If I went in there the last time at 8 o'clock, and I went to pain management exactly once. He was like, I was like, no, you are, and he was like, okay, we'll continue that dose. But then, of course, I call for my refill, and the refill's not there. And, they're going to be like 3 days late on it, but I've stockpiled. So all that does is piss me off because it makes me dip into my stockpile, which hopefully I can get away with just my usual quarter, and I'm stretching it out like 30 hours now. So, I might only have to take one pill for 3 days, depending upon how things go. So yeah, that's 43 minutes. I imagine that's enough of me. That's enough of me for me. So I imagine that's enough of me for you. So yeah. Anyways, I hope y'all are doing good, and anybody that checks in on me, thank you for the interest. And next time I will play guitar for you, and yeah, make horrible faces because I make horrible. That part of it will at least be entertaining because, man, I make some horrible faces when I play guitar. We will talk to you next time.